Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about. Michael Sussman was acquitted, and if you watched this channel, I've been telling you the past week or so that an acquittal was quite possible. Hit subscribe, by the way, to this channel, to my super chat. I cannot do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to vent or give me your thought process or anything via super chat, the Durham probe special counsel later. Yeah, actually, we'll just focus the entire live stream on the Durham probe, obviously, because there's a lot to talk about. But whatever your thoughts are, if you want to support this live stream via super chat, thank you so very much. Your super chat is greatly appreciated. I don't have $20 million in venture capital funding like some people, so your support is greatly appreciated. Well, why was he acquitted? Why was he acquitted, ladies and gentlemen? We will talk about that, and I have been talking about that for a while. He was acquitted because everyone in D.C., in media, everyone involved, the Clinton campaign, Christopher Steele, Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Kevin Kleinsmith. There was so much lying that he couldn't have been indicted for lying. John Durham has to change up his strategy. He cannot keep the same strategy. He can't keep the same strategy. The strategy that he used was utilize the Clinton campaign and the United States government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, to highlight the fact that Sussman wrote a text message, which, by the way, couldn't have been added with a superseding indictment, because the text message was discovered after the statute of limitations. So he would have obviously been indicted on that. But the problem was what we were talking about. And it's what Andrew McCarthy at the National Review was talking about, and others. Lying dog-faced pony soldier. Can they request a change of venue? For this trial, no. So he's acquitted of lying to the FBI. For the way the charges were written, no. He cannot. He cannot. So, lying dog-faced pony soldier, thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, to my super chat, thank you. He can't. This is it. So what took place is the following. He was acquitted because James Baker was in on it, lying also. Everyone at the Federal Bureau of Investigation that had any power at all was in on it. And you cannot prove, apparently you cannot prove that Sussman actually deceived Baker. You can't prove that he actually deceived somebody who wanted to investigate Trump. There was an incoming presidential candidate, Republican, outgoing Democratic administration. Okay? Incoming Trump, Republican president, and an outgoing Democratic administration. Now, let's just really read you this. Sussman acquitted on charge brought by Special Counsel Durham. The jury acquitted Michael. See, that's bizarre. I mean, I was expecting, like, either an acquittal or a mistrial, but again, look, the jury was not allowed to even really base their decision on the text message where he actually lied, stating he's not there on behalf of the Clinton campaign. Durham should never have used Mark Elias. He should never have used the Federal Bureau of Investigation or even James Baker on the witness stand at this point, because in a sense, Durham is a very, very good prosecutor. He's put government officials already in prison for conspiring to commit crimes, but he didn't realize the extent of corruption within the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He utilized people who were in on it. You can't do that. Durham made a huge mistake. He made a huge mistake. You can't do that. You can't go ahead and he learned his mistake. He learned what he did, and that's the issue. You can't utilize people who were in on the setup to try to indict people for setting up Trump. JG, hello. You can't do that. That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. A big mistake, and he did not calculate, like John Durham, in terms of strategy, needs to regroup. You can't go ahead. The jury is not going to believe that the government didn't want to set up and frame Trump. They investigated Trump based on lies. That the primary in 2016, Bernie Sanders, number one, the Democratic Party cheated Bernie Sanders. Number two, they set up and framed Trump. Number three, they accuse anyone they disagree with this absurd government-backed hoax, conspiratorial theory called Trump Russia. It never existed. There was not a shred of evidence that Trump ever was installed or worked with the Kremlin. But the thing is, it lent credibility to these conspiratorial theories. It lent credibility. So now you have a situation where Durham is trying to use former Bureau officials. Think about that for a second. Former Federal Bureau of Investigation officials. Think about that. He's trying to use people who were in on setting up and framing Trump. Okay? And you can't do that because they were they wanted to set up and frame. They wanted to accept any piece of information. They wanted to. So if you're the Durham Probe Special Counsel, why are you putting James Baker on the stand, but nobody trusts him? That's the problem. You're putting Comey's legal counsel, but nobody trusts him. You might as well put James Comey on the stand and to say that he didn't know the Steele dossier was purchased by Clinton. But ladies and gentlemen, really quickly, before we get into the before I say, hit subscribe to my stock market crash channel and the Bitcoin crash channel, that's going to be below in the pinned comment, and hit subscribe if you're new to this channel. It's not the end of the world. You have to understand, it's not the end of the world. The House and Senate are going to go Republican, Trump Republican. We have 8 to 9% inflation. We have a recession with a negative GDP, a recession with interest rates going up. We have household debt, credit card debt at all-time highs. Margin debt is still at all-time highs. We have a hedge fund and derivatives nightmare that Dodd-Frank hasn't addressed in the past decade. And Elizabeth Warren and everyone else aren't addressing that either. And food shortages potentially globally throughout the world. We have crime that's soaring. We have, homelessness. There's all of these problems. President Mashed Potato Brains has done nothing to try and solve the issue, the geopolitical crisis in Europe that he wants to use to blame for all his failures. So the economy, politics, society is objectively worse than it was with Trump. Objectively, you'd have to be a complete imbecile or enjoy suffering to think that it's not worse. Now, you can't say, ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, there's never any justice. Oh, no justice. Oh, don't do that. My God Almighty, stop. Stop. Don't do that. The issue is that the Durham probe now has learned that they can't utilize a failed strategy. They can't utilize a failed strategy. It's a failed strategy to say to the jury, look, the government is backing our case. Nobody trusts the Bureau. Nobody trusts the government to believe that they didn't set up and frame Trump. That's the problem. He has to find a way. Captain, hello. He has to find a way to indict and charge people on the 18 U.S. Code 371 statute that I wrote about in the Federalist. He has the emails, he has the messages, he has the text messages where people are conspiring against Trump. He has to do that. That's what he needs to do. He can't just go ahead and utilize people like James Baker who nobody trusts. That's the issue, is that nobody trusts former Bureau officials. Nobody trusts Comey or Andrew McCabe or Strzok. Even Democrats don't trust them. So why utilize them on the witness stand? That's the problem. You can't utilize people. You can't assume, like Durham did. You can't assume that, like, okay, this was not an easy case. Even though it seemed easy, it was not an easy case. There's so many moving parts. All of these people were in on it, and you're trying to say that Michael Sussman is deceiving Baker, who was also in on it. American Girl! No justice, no. Oh, wait, you said don't do that. American Girl, thank you. American Girl, thank you. It's like, American Girl, thank you so very, very much. He needs to change his strategy. John Durham cannot hit singles or bunts or play small ball. He can't do that anymore. Thank you, American Girl, to my super chat. Thank you, Matt Cal Mark. When will it end? They knew it was failed strategy. That's why he ran with it. I think that it could be one of two things, Matt Cal Mark. He knew that it was failed and he ran with it, or he didn't think, or that he, Jason, thank you, or Matt Cal Mark the following. Here's what I think took place. Sandra, hello. Here's what I think took place. Agent Pepsi, hello. Here's what I think took place. American Girl, Mad Cow Mark, Durham, Joel Valdez. Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. What took place is the following. Thank you, Joel. He thought that he could get conviction by conviction with, very easy slam dunk cases. A single indictment of lying. He had already gotten Kevin Kleinsmith. He had already gotten a conviction. So Kevin Kleinsmith, you see, Durham is technically 1-1. Durham is 1-1. He's not 0-1. He's 0-1 in trials. But Kevin Kleinsmith actually fabricated and falsified. And of course, he gets his law license back, which is hilarious. But he fabricated and falsified documents to a judge, to FISA judge. So he pled guilty, but that was a win. That's definitely a win for the Durham probe. The problem, Mad Cow Mark, is that you can't utilize former government officials who worked with the Clinton campaign. You have to go and if they conspired together to defraud the U.S. government. Just go for the home run. Go for the home run, because Democrats would have. There's a lot of evidence. See, they don't go after Trump. Joel Valdez. The acquittal proves. Agent Pepsi, once again, the fix is in. Yeah, the fix is in momentarily. I don't think John Durham is part of a fix. I think that he has a failed strategy You're talking about a failed strategy. You're talking about if a conviction rests upon the credibility of former Federal Bureau of Investigation officials, you're not going to get a conviction. You're not going to get a conviction because people don't trust them and people don't believe that they weren't in on setting up and framing Trump. Trump is like, if this was, okay, you have people who had to be convinced that James Baker was the legal counsel. James Baker was the legal counsel for James Comey. Baker now works at Twitter. James Baker met with Sussman. Sussman was there on behalf of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. Do you think James Baker didn't know? That's what we've been talking about the past week. I've been telling everyone an acquittal is, at first I was pretty confident, then I said, wait a second. You have to rely on the testimony of James Baker, somebody that nobody trusts. Or I should say that nobody in the jury trusted. See, you have to understand, James Baker told a jury in Washington, D.C. that he was 100% confident Sussman lied to him, and the jury said, no, we don't trust you. Yeah. You have to understand that. Understand that. He stated categorically, this is the credibility of a former FBI official. He states categorically that he was duped and deceived and he was lied to. There's a text message that shows that he was lied to. Okay? And there's other evidence. There's more evidence that shows that he was lied to. And still the jury didn't believe him. And still, because he was in on it also. They were friends. He was in on it also. And you don't have Mark Elias testify. For what purpose? So he can go off on how a decent human being. Oh, Mark Elias, a decent human being. The man who helped basically deceive half the electorate into thinking that Trump was installed by the Kremlin because of a dossier he helped purchase. Which, by the way, the FEC fined the Clinton campaign and the DNC on. A decent person would be very upset that Clinton lost her 30,000 deleted emails with top secret or special access program intelligence on servers that miraculously found that. Does Mark Elias know how the top secret and special access program intelligence found its way onto Clinton's servers for 4 years that Comey was talking about? Gee, I don't know. Comey apparently doesn't know. So all of these people are poor actors, but they're very, very good at lawfare. They're very good at using the law. They're extremely good. Durham is Mad Cow Mark. I can already hear. But you know what? The Clintons are this is this is what they do. This is how they've lived. And I want a Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump 2024. Nobody wants a Clinton Trump 2024 more than I do, or Clinton DeSantis. I want everyone on the left to twist themselves into pretzels again. It would be so enjoyable to get their audiences who want Medicare for all and Green New Deal to vote for Hillary again. But, Mad Cow Mark, Clinton had the benefit of James Clapper and John Brennan. The entire United States government pushed a hoax, a fantasy, a myth, and a conspiratorial theory. And it's very difficult now. Durham has to actually dismantle the intelligence reports. And whether he does that or not, I don't know. But he has to dismantle the absurd intelligence reports that say that a high to moderate confidence assessment proves that the Kremlin wanted Trump, or that they influenced 2016. Not one vote, not one person was influenced in 2016. Not one. Not one. Like, he cannot use the government now, our government, especially when Democrats are in office. Because when Trump was in office, we had record low unemployment. We had inflation at around what? Less than 3%? No, 2%. We had gas prices at $3 or lower. And we had an economy that was soaring. And then Democrats, what they did, they Trump Russia'd everything. That's what they do. They yell at the top of their lungs. Jamie, thank you. They screech and they scream, and they have every single outlet to amplify their message. And they said, shut down and end economic activity. We'll let you know. We'll let you know when you can open up and work. Oh, but by the way, we're gonna pump $10 trillion into the economy through fiscal and monetary stimulus. And oh, by the way, we'll let you know when you can begin working and have a society again. And then we'll get mashed potato brains in because we'll blame everything on Trump, even though the Trump economy was fantastic. Up until Democrats gleefully tanked their own economies, to keep you safe, And they just yelled and screeched at the top of their lungs. And so the thing is, it's not a matter of hope, or it's not a matter of justice. It's a matter of, do you want to go and indict? He needs to indict people for what they did. They didn't just. This whole thing is not about Sussman. Honestly, it really doesn't matter. He gets convicted. Let's say he gets convicted and goes to prison for 3 months. Would that make a difference? I didn't even know. Nobody knew who Michael Sussman was. They knew who Mark Elias and James Baker were. They didn't know who Michael Sussman was. I'm just obviously you want the conviction. Obviously, I want the conviction. But look at the bird's eye. Look at the aggregate, the macroeconomic view, which is terrible. Bitcoin will get to below 10,000. So subscribe to the Bitcoin Crash channel below. I have a very important segment out right before this one. And the Stock Market Crash channel, I have a segment. We're approaching $142 oil. Brent crude is at 122. What do you think's going to happen to the global economy? What do you think's going to happen to the U.S. economy? We have shortages of food products already. And everyone's fine. Oh, well, at least Trump isn't tweeting. Shortages of food products. At least Trump isn't tweeting. Inflation at 8 to 9%. At least Trump isn't working with the Kremlin. We're going into a recession. And we've had the worst since September when I said that the market was going to tank. We've had a tanking market. Since September, I told you, September of 2021. Okay? But the thing is, you're not going to convict anyone in this political environment where people, you're not going to convict anyone if you don't go for the statutes that talk about conspiratorial endeavors. 18 U.S. Code 371. You cannot convict on one count of lying when everyone's lying. What the Clintonian, the Democratic Party perspective on lying is that, well, Trump is worse. Everything is morally relative to Democrats. They yell and they pontificate. They say Trump lies. You couldn't even get a Democratic operative on lying because everyone around him was lying. That's how bad Democrats lie. Of course, they kick people off. It's 736 people. Of course, there's a problem with the live stream. Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you get kicked off, let me log back on. 757 views. If you get kicked off, log back on. But let's do a poll really quickly. Hit subscribe if you're new to this channel right now. Is this a big deal in the long run? Because I don't think it is, but you tell me. You tell me your thoughts. You tell me your thoughts. Is this a big deal in the long run? Because um, I don't know if it's, I don't think it's a sham. I don't know if the fix was in. I think it was a strategy that was wrong. It's a bad strategy. It's a bad strategy. The strategy was utilize the government to prove that somebody was lying, but everyone lies in the government. Nobody cared. The jury did not believe that Sussman was lying. The jury did not believe that Sussman's lie was material or that it influenced the Federal Bureau of Investigation because America was under assault by the Kremlin. We found out that Bernie Sanders was cheated. We know from John Brennan and James Clapper. They did this elaborate show. They have everybody from SNL, Saturday Night Live, to Jimmy Kimmel, to the Washington Post, the New York Times. These people will never admit that Trump was set up and framed with an absurd hoax. And yes, I think that, you will eventually convict people, but you have to go after the fact that they conspired. You have to do that. Otherwise, it ain't going to work out. You're not going to get people on little things. I mean, with Kleinsmith, he did fabricate and falsify information. So there's really no way that, he could get out of that. Also, he didn't work for, a law firm, and the fact that Sussman worked for that law firm, and the fact that he not only worked for the law firm, but was friends with Baker, and the fact that the Federal Bureau of Investigation didn't notify the agents of Sussman's identity is a huge thing. I mean, if you're on that jury, you have to be convinced that Sussman, you have to be convinced of something. You have to be convinced that Michael Sussman actually deceived James Baker. You have to be convinced that Sussman actually deceived and duped and tricked James Baker. But then you have to also trust James Baker. Then you have to also, which ain't going to happen. Then you also have to trust the former Federal Bureau of Investigation official, which ain't going to happen. They go straight from the Bureau to get a book deal, to MSNBC, to working for a tech company. It's one big racket. This is Tammany Hall. This is what Boss Tweed and everyone at Tammany Hall and the Democrats have been running this for a long time. Republicans to an extent also. But not like Democrats. Democrats, since the 1800s, there's honest graft. It's called honest graft. And they utilize see, what Trump should have done, really, what he should have done, and this would have been the end of the world, oh my God. And then you might say, well, they could do that with Durham. Would you want that? He should have fired Mueller. He should have said, then you know what? Give me all the evidence you have. He should have fired Mueller. Right then and there. And said, I want all the evidence you have to warrant an investigation. I want Comey on the stand, witness stand. They wouldn't have done it. Comey would have had to have been in a trial. They wouldn't have done it. He couldn't have hid, with, sir, no, sorry, sir, congressman, sorry, sir, it's, process and methods, and sources and methods, sir, and sir. They just hide behind everything. He should have fired the Mueller probe and said, what evidence do you have that the Kremlin wanted me? What evidence? Manafort? Because he bought a fur coat 10 years ago? What? Because they investigated everybody based on an absurd hoax. The hoax was perpetuated and created. What Trump should have done is forced them to justify. The United States government saying something doesn't mean it's right. The way Democrats work is, well, the government says it. Yeah, the government said. I grew up, if you're older than 30 or even 35, I think if you're older than 35, you realize that the government saying anything is pretty much worthless or irrelevant, or possibly important, possibly truthful, but likely purely politics. So you have a generation of young Americans who think the government said we should hop on one foot and chew gum at the same time and tap our forehead, and this will protect us from really bad things. Yeah, the government said it. Well, who cares what the government? The government said that Trump worked with Russia. That didn't work out either. The government said that Bernie Sanders' emails were taken by another country to inform us. I don't even know. This is like you have these people on the left who don't realize that the media and the United States government lie all the time to them. And they just utilize it like Trump is a menace. Trump is mean. It's like, no, Trump was fighting this corrupt system. You don't realize that because you'll lose all your friends and family and like people who quote unquote like you. They'll disown you. People on the left will disown their friends if they vote Trump. American Girl! Sad there seems to be more people following the celeb trial than one which may have direct impact on the future of the U.S. Terrible state of affairs. American Girl, great point. Great point. You know, people want to be, a great point, American Girl. People want to be, Marcus, hello. People want to be entertained. They don't want to deal with, they don't understand any of the Durham Pro Special Counsel. American Girl, they don't watch this channel, so hit subscribe if you're new to this channel at 811 viewers. Subscribe to the Bitcoin crash to 10,000 or lower channel. Bitcoin's going to crash to 10,000 or lower, unfortunately, in the stock market crash channel. Those segments, I have new segments up. They're on the homepage of this channel. But ladies and gentlemen, people don't know who Michael Sussman is, who James Baker is, who James Comey is. They don't know. They don't know. They don't understand who these people are. They don't know who James Clapper or John Brennan is. Mad Cow Mark. Camberley. Mad Cow Mark, that's good. American Girl, Mad Cow Mark, thank you. They don't understand. They don't understand why this is important. Like Trump getting set up and framed is something that didn't happen to people. They trust the United States government on like everything nowadays. And they trust the Washington, like Democrats, I should say. The Democrats trust the Washington Post. There's not a shred of evidence at all that Trump was working or that he should have been investigated. Not a shred, not one. I read all the intelligence reports. I suggest people read the ODNI and DHS reports. I suggest people read the high to moderate confidence assessments. I suggest people read the Steele dossier, which is absurd nonsense that was fabricated. Okay, and find a one indictment for conspiring alongside a foreign intelligence official. Never happened. Never, ever happened. Why wasn't Julian Assange, who should be free now, indicted on working with an intelligence official? Because he never did. Okay, Assange should be free. Why wasn't anyone? He should be free. He's a publisher, and I wrote in the Times of Israel and 2 articles in the Daily Caller. He should be free. Okay, what's happened to him is a travesty, an injustice. But that's the way Democrats roll. That's a Democratic thing. That's not a Trump thing. If Trump could go ahead and pardon Snowden and Assange, he would. But the system, for whatever reason, he didn't, and the system would not allow him. The system probably didn't allow him to do a lot of things. You know, you might not like Donald Trump, but he fights a very corrupt system. Very corrupt. So corrupt you can't indict somebody for lying after they lied. But see, again, the 839 people watching this, everyone watching, like reading my articles in the Federalist, and even when I was writing in the Huffington Post and the Hill and Salon, other publications, we saw like the corruption is something that half the electorate likes. Never Trump Republicans and Democrats love these hoaxes. They love him. It's not like they don't like it. They say, well, Trump was working with another country. We had to investigate. What evidence did you have? Well, James Comey wrote a memo, and he said that Trump asked for his loyalty. And then he wrote a book called A Higher Loyalty. They believe all. They love it. They don't like it if Trump's... Look, they will worship intelligence services as long as those intelligence agencies back their viewpoint. Okay? If the intelligence agencies don't back their viewpoint... then they don't worship them. You have to understand, the appeal to authority is only if the authority backs their vantage points. And so you have an entire United States government, lying, but anyone with critical thinking skills, you don't have to like Trump. And if you don't like Trump, that's fine with me. But don't say that he worked with the Kremlin or that he should have been investigated. Because then you're believing in the same absurd message boards that other people believe in that they shouldn't believe in. Don't say that Trump worked with the Kremlin when you have no evidence at all. And simply citing James Clapper or John Brennan is not evidence. There is no evidence. Not one Facebook ad. Can I get not one Democrat, not one of the tens of millions of people who voted for mashed potato brains. Not one of the tens of millions of people who voted for mashed potato brains can cite any piece of evidence that shows that Trump should have been investigated. But I mean, here, this is the thing. It's like, this is not the end-all, be-all. Nobody knew who Sussman was. I mean, this is a way for Durham to change his strategy, alter his strategies. Going into another trial, and the person on trial won't have the luxury of being a high-powered attorney at a D.C. law firm who lies so much. They lie so much that you'd have to convince the jury that a government official who lies also was duped. That's the problem here. These people hide behind plausible deniability when it suits them or because they can. If it's an average American without those benefits, these are the people who talk about systemic injustices, how there's privilege. You couldn't find greater systemic injustices and privilege than within the Democratic Party. If Pelosi's husband, driving under the influence, running a stop sign, and then the reports are a car crashed into him. Oh, gee, how convenient. Oh, did a car crash into him? Oh, of course he was intoxicated, but a car crashed into him. JG, I agree with you. I think that Durham will win the next trial. He's technically 1-1. Kevin Kleinsmith was a victory for Durham. So he's technically 1-1. The problem was nobody really understood the significance of what Kleinsmith did. Nobody understood the significance of what he did. So nobody understood that lying to a judge about FISA information to get people under surveillance is a really bad thing. See, his next indictment has to be linked to 18 U.S. Code 371. 18 U.S. Code 371 is the statute that McCabe and Comey should be charged under. Now, whether he does that or not, I don't know. The thing that has to happen is that he cannot play small ball. He can't go for the single and then the steal. He has to go for the home run. This isn't Moneyball. He can't do... his thing is, well, you know what? We'll get a little conviction with Sussman, and then we'll move on. It's like, no. He can't do that. Nobody believes former bureau officials. Nobody believes that the government wasn't in on it with the Clinton campaign. Also, the Clinton campaign what Mark Elias and Robbie Mook, what they were able to do, mainly Elias, is that he was able to say, well, we were under constant assault by another country, and Donald Trump didn't protect our country. It's like the Democrats would love if another country hacked into the RNC. And by the way, this is what Durham has to dismantle everything. He has to ask, Nuna, hello, he has to ask, well, did the United States government look at DNC servers? Yes or no? The answer is no. So therefore, you cannot state with certainty that another country. You cannot use the input of a third-party tech firm. Okay? But see, nobody understands this. Nobody gets this. The average American doesn't care about this now. The average American doesn't care about this. They're either saying, thank God Trump isn't tweeting as they pay more for oil and gas. Or they're saying, you know what, this is horrible. Our country's descending into madness, which it is. Herschel Ballard! Jerma's breaking down MSM bunkers. Yeah, I mean, slowly but surely. Herschel, thank you. Thank you, American Girl. Thank you, Herschel, to my super chat. Thank you. Herschel, I think it's going to take a while. The next trial is going to be interesting. I really don't see this as a loss. Like, I know that I know that people will say, oh, you know, this is a big victory for Democrats. It's like, I remember when I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, in 2016, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, okay? I had Twitter at that time. This is before I became a supporter of President Trump. Rightfully so. Trump fights a very corrupt system, and he opposes the Lincoln Project, which and never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, wars, interventions, military interventions, those are the things that should be opposed. Not what Trump's words. He's mean. Well, I mean, mashed potato brains Biden says a lot worse. A lot worse. He gets away with it. Because people on the left, many of them, don't really have a set value system. They just go, they don't want to lose friends and family. They don't want to be ostracized, so they just go with the flow. They're like, oh yeah, Trump's mean. They don't really believe. You know how many people on the left don't really think that Trump is that bad, but have to say he's horrible just to keep up appearances? It's like unbelievable. But what has to happen when you look at what's taken place, there has to be an effort. There has to be an effort. There has to be an effort for Durham to actually go and dismantle what America's intelligence agencies came up with, which is that Trump was the beneficiary of this gigantic assault on democracy. Nothing could be further from the truth. He was a victim, and he was on the receiving end of this vitriol from Democrats and government and media. So he has to go ahead, and what he has to do is look at the intelligence reports, get intelligence officials on the stand, have them answer yes or no questions, okay? And if he has information like text messages, like emails, get those emails before the statute of limitations. That's what he has to do. You can't go ahead and Indy, he was acquitted. You can't go ahead and convict people when everyone is in on it. Okay? When everyone is in. See, Durham, I don't think understood that everyone was in on setting up and framing Trump. Everyone. This is the antithesis of democracy. You don't investigate Democrats for accepting money and then coincidentally allowing a sale of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity, which was far more an obstacle to national security than anything Trump did. I mean, they get away with everything. Here's the issue. John Durham needs to understand what suspicion is, like what role emotions play. Emotions. They are suspicious of Trump. They are not suspicious of Democrats. I should say the jury is. All of humanity is suspicious of Democrats. But a DC jury, they're not suspicious. They don't assume ill intent. They're not going to assume or imagine that people like Democratic operatives will do things to harm the country. They can't imagine that. That's why the Democrats love Twitter so much, because it suppressed doubt against them, suspicion towards them. They're the ones who cheat Bernie Sanders, their own candidates. They're the ones who every single year, thank you, may I have another? This is fantastic. Democrats lie to their voters the most. So imagine they're going to lie to the government. They say, Medicare for all. They won't even vote on it. They don't want any of these things. They want to get people funneled back into their political party with the hope that one day left-leaning policies will be adopted, which of course they won't. I mean, what do they really care about? They cared for 5 years about Trump, getting him with his tax returns, couldn't find anything. With Stormy, couldn't find anything. With the Kremlin, couldn't find anything. Campaign finance, couldn't find anything. They can't find anything. And you're going to have, be here for the live stream this November. Be here for the live stream this November. We're going to have an amazing time. And there will almost certainly be convictions under Durham's belt at that point. I mean, the next, November is going to be Trump Republicans in the House, Trump Republicans in the Senate. There will be parallel investigations. There will be parallel investigations in the House and the Senate, along with Durham. You won't have Twitter anymore. So Democrats lost their most important platform, because Elon Musk purchased it like I said he would, because he knew that platform was going to be used against him. And it was simmering. The discontent towards Elon Musk was simmering, and he knew it. And so he said, you know what? I'm not going to allow this platform to be leveled against me. And it's like all the advantages that Democrats had, the House, the Senate, Twitter, that's gone. Now, this is not a loss, ladies and gentlemen. It's really not a loss. This is I'm not trying to cope with anything. I'm not trying to give you hope. If he changes up his strategy, it's not a loss. If the Durham probe changes up its strategy, it's not a loss. And that's the truth. If the Durham probe special counsel if John Durham changes up his strategy and starts to understand that nobody trusts, not one person on the planet trusts the government. If you're in a jury, you're not going to trust the government in this day and age. And I should say, you're not going to trust the government when it comes to Donald Trump. If you're trying to prove that the government was duped or deceived by Clinton, you're not going to be able to prove that, because Clinton and the United States government worked together in unison. They are all friends. They're all buddies. They're all friends, and It's like you're not going to be able to prove that. You're not going to be able to prove that that Michael Sussman, was actually deceiving James Baker. All right, let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Jury. So here, let's see. Let's see, Jonathan Turley. Let's see what he says. Sussman was found guilty. Many of us viewed the evidence as overwhelming, yet the jury either believed he did not lie or that the lie was not material. So the jury believed he lied, but that it wasn't material. And that's the issue. You're not going to get... Here's the text message. Okay? He literally lies beyond a shadow of a doubt here, but this was obtained after the statute of limitations. Jim, it's Michael Sussman. I have something time-sensitive and sensitive I need to discuss. Do you have the ability for a short meeting tomorrow? I am coming on my own, not on behalf of a client or company. Want to help the Bureau. Thanks. I'm coming on my own, not on behalf of a client or company. It's right there. But see, the average Democrat media, they won't care about that. Steppenwolf, hello. They won't care about that. They won't care about that. They just won't care about it. It's right there. I mean, he lied. It's right there. Okay? But they're not going to care about that. Because this is a formality. These people engage in a very murky moral world. This is why when they talk about morality, it's like, dude, you know nothing about morality. These people engage in a very, very weird... These people engage in a very murky, weird, gray area world in terms of morality. Northern Lights, hello. That's the thing. It's the prosecution. The jury was not convinced that the lie was material. What does that mean? That means that the lie did not actually change anything. So he lied, but it didn't change anything because they were going to investigate Trump anyway. And so they were in on it. They wanted to investigate Trump. And like I said, the only way for Durham really to like, if the United States government was involved in this, that's how BuzzFeed got out of a libel case. Like, they published material that was patently false and engaged in libel. But the government was utilizing the Steele dossier so they could say, oh, well, it was a government endeavor. If the government is in on it, he has to find a way to remove the belief that the government was unbiased or apolitical. See, the problem is that, like, if everyone is partisan, then nobody's really lying. Because everyone on one side is partisan. So if they engage in these formalities, hey, I'm not coming on behalf of anyone else, I'm coming on my own. They engage in these formalities. They're just theatrical performances. They're just formalities. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this is actually not a good trial to have. Wasn't a good it wasn't a good see with the Mueller probe. What he tried to do is kind of like do what the Mueller probe did. The Mueller probe got people. The Mueller probe got people indicted and convicted people on lying to the Bureau. Okay. They weren't funneling information to the Bureau. They were just being investigated by people who wanted to set up and frame everyone around Trump for a public relations victory. When George Papadopoulos or Manafort or anyone involved was indicted or charged, they were set up and framed. Michael Flynn was set up and framed. George Papadopoulos set up and framed. Herschel Ballard! The Democratic Party is that's true here. Exactly. It slowly is. It's Herschel. It slowly is. To my super chat, thank you. Slowly is. I mean, look, November is going to be awesome. Awesome. Especially the economy is not going to get better, unfortunately. So it's only going to get worse. Herschel, thank you. Knitting Kitten! A jury just said, I don't think it should have been prosecuted. There are bigger things that affect the nation than a possible... Exactly. You see, there you go. They don't understand. This is like, wow, Knitting Kitten. Wow. They don't care. They don't see it as they don't understand the big picture. They don't care. Indy Joy! Thank you, Indy, as always. I hope all is well. Thank you. Knitting Kitten. It's unbelievable. And here's the issue. This affects the country. This is one of the things that affects the country more than anything else because they've deceived half the electorate. And then they say that half the electorate is deceived by Trump. But they had the United States government go after an incoming presidential candidate. That's the antithesis of democracy. Indy, thank you. I hope all is well, Indy. Thank you. Knitting Kitten, unbelievable. Herschel, thank you. Knitting Kitten. Yeah, if you have any more quotes, ladies and gentlemen, from the jury, it's like, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I don't think it should have been prosecuted. There are bigger things affected. They don't understand. See, Durham said, well, Mueller got people on lying to the Bureau. Yeah, but the Mueller probe was about public relations. The Mueller probe was about public relations. It wasn't about national security. They wanted retribution, revenge. When they indicted and charged George Papadopoulos, they set him up based on Alexander Downer, a person who knew the Clintons for a long time and was very intimate with the foundation, and they set up George Papadopoulos like they set up Michael Flynn, and they knew that nobody was working with intelligence officials of another country. We have a $30 billion apparatus just with those three agencies: National Security, Central Intelligence, and Federal Bureau of Investigation. $30 billion. So Knitting Kitten, $30 billion worth of intel and surveillance couldn't find a shred of evidence that Trump was ever working or conspiring with another country. Yet he was investigated. And part of the investigation, Knitting Kitten, thank you. Part of the investigation was retribution. They needed to get, like, wins, victories. So they set up people, and then every indictment was, well, why did he lie to the Bureau? Why did he meet Alexander Downer? Why did Flynn lie to agents? What could they be hiding? And everyone at CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times and other publications, they fed it. They were given false information. And then you had government investigating itself, and it's like, the Inspector General report, well, we found this, that, that. We found all of these problems, but we couldn't find prosecutorial bias. I mean, you have Peter Strzok saying, we'll stop Trump. Are you kidding me? You have Sussman saying, I'm coming on my own. I mean, these people are they're caught in the act. The problem is you have half of the country and the United States government protecting them. So you have half the country that believes that Trump was installed by the Kremlin or doesn't care. Also, here's the issue that Durham has to face. People don't care if Trump was set up and framed. They want that to happen. They actually don't care. They actually don't care. They don't view that. Like, I would care. Like, if Republicans set up and framed a Democrat, I would care. I don't go by political party. That's why I went from Bernie to Trump. And if it was Mitt Romney, Mitt Romney as the nominee, I'd go from Bernie to Trump to Tulsi Gabbard. But as it stands now, with mashed potato brains, or perhaps Hillary Clinton will be the nominee, I would love that. I want everyone on the left to vote for Hillary in 2024. She should run again. The Durham Pro Special Counsel could get close to. See, this is not like, look, he could eventually indict Clinton. This is not like, so she should run. She won't be indicted. She would never be indicted if she ran for president. Or she should become nominee, because mashed potato brains is not going to be a difficult feat to defeat him. But this is not like a monumental defeat. Nobody knew who Sussman was. It was one count of lying, and it was something that he shouldn't even engaged in. Like, he shouldn't have. He should the Steele subsource trial is what he should have focused on. He really should have focused on the Steele subsource trial. That should have been the first trial. That really should have been the first trial. Let's see. Attorney with ties to Clinton campaign. And also, like, Durham doesn't have the luxury of the Mueller probe. The Mueller probe got endless coverage. Jurors probably, like, when they turned on the news, all they saw was Mueller. So it's like, you're dealing with a different ballgame. Completely different ballgame. He allegedly wrote, I love CBS, he allegedly wrote. The man wrote it, and then the CBS News, like, he allegedly wrote. And so, here, you know what? And this is bizarre. See, they barred prosecutors from discussing the accuracy of the bank data. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They said that you can only consider the September 19th statement to Baker and not the text message the night before when deciding his guilt. See, that's why I would never be on a jury. That's why juries oftentimes are filled with people who, if they were part of the Stanley Milgram experiment, would just keep on buzzing volts into human beings. If someone told me, you cannot use the text message, well, why not? Well, it was obtained after the statute of limitations. Yeah, what does that have to do with me? Sorry, you can only decide on what's in the meeting. I would not. I would use that text message as I would not listen to the jury instructions. I would use that text message. So the text message shows I'm in the catch him red-handed. I knew it. I mean, it's unbelievable, but it's very believable. It's unbelievable, but at the same time, it's believable. Because the thing is, like, if John Durham wants to be successful, and I shouldn't be telling this man, how to do his job, but this is categorically, he needs to change up. He needs to change his, he needs to alter his strategy. The strategy is not working out. He cannot use the government. He can't use former officials, and he can't use the Clinton campaign. I mean, the Clinton campaign and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The Clinton campaign and the Federal Bureau of Investigation literally testified against Sussman. He still got off. I mean, it's like, because nobody trusts, nobody believes that James Baker was actually deceived, because all of them lied in such a profound manner that nobody could believe that Sussman actually deceived them. They were all in on it. And that's the thing. You can't hide behind you can't hide behind this notion that the government's apolitical. You can't hide behind the notion that the government is apolitical. That's a stupid thing to do. That's a really dumb thing to do. You cannot hide behind any belief that government officials are apolitical. If Republicans set up and framed an incoming Democratic candidate president, my God, you wouldn't hear the end of it. They would ask, well, where's the intelligence reports? Oh, high to moderate confidence? You don't know that. You don't know if there's categorical proof. Where's the proof? Where's the evidence, the categorical proof that Trump needed to be investigated? That was a judgment call based on people who didn't like him. So he was investigated. I'm not controlled by anyone. I'm giving my thoughts. It's like, there's no such thing as controlled opposition. It's people giving their thoughts and people giving their viewpoints. And I think I'm being pretty logical when I say this isn't the end of the world, but at the same time, he has to alter his strategy. He has to alter his strategy. You can't, you simply can't utilize the United States government. You can't just point to the U.S. government and say, oh, well, were you deceived by the Clinton campaign? And you can't, because the Clinton campaign and the U.S. government were working together. So you have to explain that to the jury. You have to explain that to the jury. You have to explain also the importance of this. When the judge says we're not going to litigate 2016, it's all about 2016. That's what the Durham Probe Special Counsel is about. It is about 2016. They have to actually explain that. And my God Almighty, can they get a jury that isn't like all Democrat? Is that possible? It's like you can't. The jury is like you had Democratic donors. How do you allow this? Like, how is that even allowed? Can you be? Can you be? Conor McGregor was never my friend. Thank you. Conor McGregor was never my friend. Half of the nation have brainwashed and still think Trump is Putin's aide. It's disturbing that even after the Mueller probe, it's still sad. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. It is disturbing. But that's the country we live in. I mean, we have been, and thank you so very much. Thank you for your support. Half the country does believe that. Half the country believes that. But see, the thing is, there's a reason they believe that. There's a reason they believe that. It's because the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, when they lose, like when the Mueller probe leads to nothing, they just turn the page. And what they've done actually is the following. And here's why. And thank you again. Here's why they don't ever accept defeat or admit that they were duped. It's now turned into, like, when you hear that, when you hear anything about the Kremlin in 2016, the DNC email hack is like the Bible to them. Like, it's like the gospel. Like, it happened, and you will never get them to admit that the United States government never looked at DNC servers. It happened. Trump tried to pressure another country, even though the president of that country literally stated that Trump never pressured him, but Trump tried to pressure another country. And now we're finding out, by the way, that the United States government is investigating Hunter, and that both Hunter and Mashed Potato Brains are corrupt as, more corrupt than you could ever imagine. But they believe in hoaxes. They believe in myths. That Trump pressured another country. Think about that for a second. He's impeached because of a phone call transcript. Are you kidding me? Nixon had to resign because of a break-in, which is a crime, and then a cover-up of a crime. There was an actual break-in, like a burglary in Watergate. An actual burglary in Watergate. Like a bunch of people broke into a headquarters, the Democratic National Committee headquarters. Okay? And that led to Nixon resigning. Trump had a transcript with an ellipsis, and Democrats were like, oh my God, no democracy. Oh, democracy. I mean, you have to understand. These people they don't have any grasp of history. They don't have any grasp of history. If you understand history, you know Trump is the antithesis of an authoritarian. It's Democrats who are the authoritarians. They're the ones who want to silence, suppress debate. They want to go after people economically if they don't like their viewpoints. They want to, they worship intelligence agencies. They have a Lincoln Project with they want never-ending military conflict. Knitting Kitten, thank you. Yeah, I just read. Wow. See, that's the thing with a jury. Like, I could never be told, like, I would never in a million years just follow a technicality. I understand that a jury has to do that, but I would never, like, I would look at the text message and say, yeah, I'm the one person. Like, can you be objective? That's objectivity, looking at the information. Not being told, oh, you can't look at the information that says the man was lying. But see, this is part, like, the Durham probe messed up. They messed up. That's really the special counsel, John Durham, his prosecutors. The strategy was a flawed strategy from the very beginning. You cannot use government officials and the Clinton campaign to try to convince a jury that a former bureau official was duped. James Baker was under criminal investigation himself for a second. So, I mean, it's just a flawed strategy. It was a flawed strategy. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Like I said, there's another trial coming up. I do think that there's going to be a conviction in that trial. The Steele subsource was obviously, if they try to go ahead and say, well, the Bureau already knew it was nonsense. That's going to be a little bit more difficult. That's going to be more difficult to do. I mean, the defense now for anyone in the Durham probe special counsel is, well, the government knew. That's the defense. And honestly, that's actually a good defense. The government did know. The government did know. Or the government was in on it. That's the thing. So, I mean, there's really nothing like... He has to alter his strategy. He can't go ahead and keep doing what he was doing. It's not possible. You can't go ahead and use this kind of strategy where we're like Baker, like I said, 100% certain that he was lied to. And a text message, but because the text message was obtained after the statute of limitations, then it couldn't have been used in the decision. It's just like the jury is told these things. They're told these absurd things to get a specific outcome. So, they're told these things like, you can't look at the evidence that shows he's lying. You can only look at the evidence that shows he might not be lying. Oh, okay. So then we'll just give him the acquittal. There's also an element of politics in media here. Like, media did not cover the Durham probe. Nobody, like, I cover it. I covered it. I shouldn't. Okay. I covered the Durham probe special counsel. Knowing anything of evidence of truth. I covered the special counsel. There was not enough. There was not nearly enough coverage. Like, nobody, like, they just didn't want to talk about it. Now, this might cause... The text message was withheld, exactly. So the text message, so Knitting Kitten, okay. The text message was not part of the process. I think from what this article said, let's see, this article right here talked about how the text message hold on. Okay. Tailored testimony in apparent attempt to limit polarization. Like, I love that. What do you mean polarization? The whole thing is about 2016. They couldn't consider the text message. Okay. Unbelievable. Herschel Ballard, you're over to talk the story will grow. Thank you, Herschel. I appreciate that very much. To my super chat, thank you, Herschel. I appreciate your kind words and your support. I appreciate your kind words and support. Knitting Kitten, thank you again. No, the conspiratorial theories are that Trump worked with the Kremlin, which literally never happened, ever. Yet again, a Clinton associate got off when they literally lied, so there's no failing at all. It's actually proving the system is completely corrupt. But again, enjoy, like, when Democrats revel, they no, I remember the DNC emails came out, they're like, that's all you have? And then they said, no, when they lost to Trump. So, And Democrats will lose miserably in the House and Senate. Miserably. So I wouldn't be too happy about this Sussman deal. There's no greater conspiratorial theory than thinking that Trump worked with the Kremlin. Literally, you have to be a complete and utter, like, half the electorate has to be. Like, you'd have to be a complete imbecile to believe that Trump worked with the Kremlin without a shred of evidence. Literally all the evidence obtained by Clinton. And then Democrats talk about truth and morality. It's like, literally they're basking in immorality. But see, again, it's like, you know, that's the way they roll. They're like, oh, we won. It's like, you didn't win at all. Everyone knows Sussman lied and he get off. Do you think that Sussman getting off makes Clinton look better? It makes Clinton, both Clintons, look like people who just always get off. Not that, like, these little victories are actually proving a corrupt system. Not the other way around. Like, these victories don't prove that the system is honest and fair. They prove the system is extremely corrupt and that Democrats utilize it to their own advantage. That's literally the epitome of immorality. Literally the epitome of immorality. And Democrats are like, yay, we won. It's like, no, you didn't win anything. Durham probe is still up and running. So, the Durham probe is still up and running. And look, it's like, it's going to take time. Also, the thing with Baker is that he hid that message, or he didn't just find it. He had the message for a long time. He just had to give it when he was told, do you have anything? But he literally said something like, well, it's your investigation, so you find it. Something like that. But I don't understand why they didn't get Sussman's phone. Again, they get, this is not a victory for Democrats. It's certainly not a victory for the Durham probe, but it's not a victory for Democrats. Because Democrats lie and cheat. They cheat Bernie Sanders. They lie all the time. They believe in the most absurd conspiratorial nonsense. Unbelievable. Like, you'd have to have no brain cells working to believe the things. Medicare for all, Green New Deal, Trump working with Putin. None of these things happened. None of these things. It's the biggest racket of all time. You would have to be the people at Jonestown and Democrats are pretty much the same type of individual. They'll just believe. The poor people at Jonestown, but they'll just drink the Kool-Aid and just believe anything they're told, as long as it suits them. If it doesn't suit them, well, that's a different story. But Durham has to change his strategy. When Trump defeated Clinton, Democrats couldn't believe that they had every conceivable advantage and lost. Now they're going to lose miserably in the House and Senate. And the country is descending into, a recession. We're supposed to actually not have a recession now. But, of course, Democrats messed up yet again by forcing the economy to just completely shut down and end economic activity. But, look. It's going to take some time. He has to alter his strategy. He can't rely on government officials because government officials were backing the Clinton campaign. They were working with the Clinton campaign. So, government officials were working alongside the Clinton campaign. So, you can't expect Durham to get a conviction if he's utilizing. You can't expect Durham to get a conviction if he's utilizing government officials as proof of you can't expect government officials to serve as witnesses for Durham when they're all in on the corruption. It's really easy. All Durham has to do is go look at the intelligence reports and put the intel agencies on trial. That's, this sacred cow. These are like sacred cows in American politics, but that's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to do. Trump's government every government is political, but you look at what took place in Trump's government. He was set up and framed every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds, he was set up and framed. So you're not looking like what mashed potato brains Biden is doing. He's focusing on everything but economic growth and everything but geopolitical stability. So he's putting politics 1,000,000% above the country's interests. Trump did not do that. Trump presided over a great economy. The worst thing he did was an ellipsis trying to investigate Biden, mashed potato brains Biden, which, by the way, is completely corrupt. Where are Trump's emails showing that he's using his family name to make money? I'm sorry, the U.S. government to make money. How can you use your influence on behalf of the company is one of the emails Hunter had. Where's Trump's emails? They investigated Trump, his tax returns, his administration. They found literally nothing. Literally nothing. People were indicted for public relations purposes. They were tormented, and the government was leveled against a political opposition because they were fed Clinton. They were fed information from Clinton. It worked. But see, again, the Democrats didn't really win a victory. They didn't do anything for the country that's good. The past 5-6 years has been like Jimmy Kimmel. All he does is talk about how bad Trump and Republicans are. He doesn't offer any solutions. He's now a politician in addition to being a comedian. But he's a failed politician because he doesn't offer any solutions at all. He just regurgitates whatever the latest Seth Meyers, same thing. They just regurgitate whatever CNN and Washington Post and MSNBC talk about. They don't it's a cult. They just, Trump is bad. Trump's words cause all the problems in mashed potato brains, Biden's administration. So everything bad now is still because of Trump's words. The economy, they don't talk about. Go to any major YouTuber on the left. They're not talking about the economy because because they can't. What are they going to say? It's Trump's fault? They can't talk about the economy now. They can't talk about the economy. So, Visteo, hello. So let's go ahead. Let's do a poll. Okay, so let's do another poll. Will Durham alter his strategy now? Let me know. What do you think? No. No. I was no, it's still going to be stinky. The question, thank you. The question, thank you again. So, 56% say he'll alter his strategy. I mean, Here. Hold on one second. Here's a good one. Do Democrats even know why they're celebrating? That's actually a funny question. Because I don't think they know. Yes. They can't be tried for the same thing. Exactly. You cannot be tried for the same thing. The funny thing is, Democrats they don't even know what the Durham probe is about, but they're celebrating it. Like, yay! Yay, he was acquitted of what? Lying. Yes, he was not lying, see? No, he lied. What? Who cares? He was acquitted. It's a text message that showed he lied. Actually, this actually proves Trump's case. No, it doesn't. You lost. Yay, we won. Like, this doesn't make them look better. Tom. Okay, Sussman was acquitted. Durham's going to change and alter his strategy for the next trial. This is not really a setback at all, although it's disappointing. And we've all learned, I think Durham has learned, that he has to win the next conviction, but also what he needs to do is not utilize the government as a witness against Clinton-backed operatives, because the Clinton-backed operatives are actually working side by side with the government. So there was an acquittal, but it really wasn't like, ladies and gentlemen, this is really not the end of the world at all. If anything, it's kind of a good thing. You can say, oh, you're just coping or whatever. It's like, it is kind of, like I said, I was saying this before, it's kind of a good thing in the long run. It's kind of a good thing in the long run, because he has to go for, he should go for the victory, or the statutes that talk about conspiring against the U.S. government. I'd say real conservatives are Trump voters. I would say real conservatives vote for Trump. I'm not conservative on anything. I'm conservative on a lot of things now. But I would say Trump is the best thing to happen to the Republican Party. By far. The best thing. Because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party were the same political party. They were the exact same. It's the exact same political party on major issues. Of course, there are certain social issues or certain societal issues, you could say now, that there's a difference. But the best thing to happen to the Republican Party is Trump, by far. If you don't have Trump, there's like nothing that the Mitt Romney or Bush, like Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld, obliterated the Republican Party. They're now all in the Democratic Party. So, the interesting thing is, like, I'm so beyond, like, anyone who thinks that you and I are down from this. It's like, we're not down at all. There's too much that we learned from this trial to be down. It's people who are ignorant of the actual trial. They don't realize what took place. Okay, they don't realize what took place. These are the same, it's interesting, the same people who were like, oh my God, there's no justice. The people who look at Trump's victory and say, oh my God, there's no justice. How could he have won? How could he have defeated Clinton? Those are the same people jumping for joy now. And it's like, well, this politics is the way the Democratic Party or the way Democrats work is like politics. They view it as part of who they are, their identity. It's like their soul, like their spirit. They've been so wrapped up in media coverage that they don't really understand, like, that their side is more corrupt. They don't get it. They think Bernie Sanders being cheated is not that big of a deal. No, not a big deal. They think Trump being set up and framed is not a conspiratorial theory. It's the biggest theory at all. It's the most absurd theory. But they don't care. They don't care. At the end of the day, they're very likely, almost certainly not going to be celebrating in November. The House will go Republican. The Senate should as well, but at least, definitely the House will. And the Senate should as well. The economy, unfortunately, is not going to get better. So, the economy is not getting better. Like, not getting better at all. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. So think about that. They didn't like where the country was going when we had a good economy under Trump. Because they don't really care. They care only about victory. That's it. They care only about victory. That's it. Political victory. That's all they want is a political victory. And he has to, like I keep saying, he has to change up his strategy. It's really not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. Like, the fact that they're happy that a Clinton-backed lawyer lied and got away with it says a lot about them. And they keep on talking about, oh, Trump lies. Nobody lied more. Nobody lies more than mashed potato brains, media, Democrats. Trump tells the truth infinitely more than Democrats. He never worked with the Kremlin. That never happened. He was telling the truth there every single day for 5 to 6 years. They were lying or lying by omission or making absurd leaps of logic deliberately to try to paint Trump as this operative of another country. They lied every day. But see, the Washington Post fact check the 10,000 lies. That was a petulant attempt at slicing and dicing everything the man said. If you utilize the same standard with our vice president, mashed potato brains, our president, the Clintons, President Obama, you would get the same number, probably more. So the 10,000 lies the Washington Post compiled, they could have compiled the same number with Democrats, Democratic politicians, if they had utilized the same standard. But they didn't do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go 10 minutes more. We will go 10 minutes more, ladies and gentlemen. And we will go 10 minutes more, and we're going to end. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, to recap for the next 10 minutes, and to my super chat, I cannot thank you enough, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'll have a live stream tonight, people, at around 8 p.m. Pacific. 9 p.m. Pacific. So be here for the live stream, 9 p.m. Pacific. Probably start about 9 p.m. So be here for the live stream. But ladies and gentlemen, you can't the trial was, he shouldn't have prosecuted this case because there were too many moving parts, and you had an attorney who worked for a DC law firm who obviously lied, but you had him lying to a person who himself was under criminal investigation for a second, and he lied to a bureau official who was Comey's top legal counsel. They all accepted the Steele dossier. They all accepted the bank allegations. They were in on it. They wanted to investigate Trump. They did so because the United States government said that Trump could have been an operative of another country without a shred of evidence, not one piece of evidence. Evidence is not an appeal to authority. That's not evidence. I noticed that it's very interesting. They've changed the term. That's a logical fallacy, that you shouldn't base your argument on appeals to authority. But the past couple of years, they've actually changed, and so you'll read like appeals to authority, logical fallacy, but then it's like it shouldn't be though refuted if that. What was it like? There's like definitions now where it's like it can be used actually as an argument, or it shouldn't be refuted in many instances. Like, no, it should be refuted if you have no other, if you have nothing else. Yes, Christian O'Brien has. There was a couple HA derangement syndrome in the chat. A couple. Christian O'Brien. Generally, it was like sometimes it was messages. Christian. People couldn't see in the chat. Little Trumpers lost again. We won. The Democrats won, and the Trumpers lost. The Trumpers beat your rear end in 2016. Those Trumpers beat your rear end, and you were crying for the next 4 years. And then those Trumpers will win the House and the Senate, and those Trumpers will investigate you endlessly. And those Trumpers presided over a great economy before Andrew Cuomo got an Emmy tanking his and the United States economy. Democrats tanking their own economies, the state economies, gleefully. Everything we're experiencing now in terms of the recession that we're seeing is the result of what took place 2 years ago. Christian O'Brien, thank you again. Thank you again, as always, to my super chat. Thank you. We'll go 5 more minutes. But yeah, I mean, you can't go ahead. You can't go ahead and like you can't go ahead and complain about Trump working with Russia when you made it up. You just made up the whole thing, and then these people are the same people who talk about conspiratorial theories. Like, they literally made up the biggest hoax of all time. And now we have inflation, fault of Democrats. They end economic activity to keep you safe, pump $10 trillion into the economy, and then want to build back better. Wow, that was successful. By saving the economy through decarbonizing the economy, as mashed potato brains Biden floods the economy with strategic oil reserves because he has no clue what he's doing. Neither do Democrats. Inflation 8 to 9%. Inflation 8 to 9%. Then Democrats say he doesn't control inflation. Yeah, his policies caused, and Democratic policies caused inflation to 8 to 9%. Fact. Recession, fact. Negative economic growth, fact. Nietzsche 948. This outcome is why I prefer to leave the courts out of any attempt to bring down this unbelievably corrupt system. Nietzsche 948. Yeah, I mean, well, you need the courts in that respect. Nietzsche 948. Thank you. Christian O'Brien. Thank you. JG, exactly. Build back never. So we have food shortages. Nietzsche, thank you. Christian, thank you. JG, hello. Food shortages. Inflation at 8 to 9%. At least Trump isn't tweeting. Recession. we're in a recession now. The interest rates going up while we're in a recession. So people are going to have to pay more for mortgages, and then you have a real estate market that's going to be hit very badly. And then you have the bond market that's already hit badly. And Bitcoin's going to get to below 10,000. I don't want that to happen, but it will. Geopolitical nightmare under Democrats. They're not doing anything. We have every single problem that was supposed to happen under Trump, which didn't happen under Trump, is happening under Democrats. Like, fact, objective. There is no doubt that this is taking place. The question of logic shortages, exactly. And you have to ask yourself, is life better now under mashed potato brains? Is life better now? That's a question that people should ask. Is life better? Like, is your life better now with, like, going to the supermarket and paying, 30 to 40% more for food? Is your life better now? Because under Democrats, you're paying more for food, more for gas. Directly their fault. They came in to build back better. We're going to decarbonize the economy. We're going to save the planet. Oh, really? How? We don't know. We need Joe Manchin to help us. No, Joe! Kristen Sinema, no! And it's like, oh, you didn't know what you were doing. You just knew that you weren't Trump because you're obsessed with Trump. Oh, that's right. So they try to decarbonize the economy, not realizing that oil and gas were geopolitical issues, strategic issues. Then they got sued, the Democrats, they got sued by 14 states and oil and gas associations, literally in the lawsuits, saying your policies are increasing the price of oil and gas. And then you get Democrats, there's price gouging from these oil companies. Like, well, it's in the lawsuits. They're actually suing. So it's not about Trump. Sussman. Sussman with M-A-N. M-A-N. S-U-S-S-M-A-N. Sussman. Michael Sussman was the man's name. Michael Sussman. S-U-S-S-M-A-N. And it doesn't, like what I was saying, we'll watch the past week in terms of videos. I said acquittal. Now, did I predict it? No. Did I think it was a possibility that I was trying to tell everybody? Yes. But it's not like, the fact that he's acquitted, in the long run, it really doesn't make a difference. The issue now is, it actually is better that he's acquitted, because for the long term, not for the short term, for the long term, not for the short term, for the long term, not for the short term. Why? Did I just turn into Max Hedron? The reason is because Durham is forced now to change his strategy. Durham has to change his strategy now. He has no choice but to change his strategy. Because if he utilizes the same strategy, I mean, the Clinton campaign and the Federal Bureau of Investigation testified against Sussman, and Sussman still won because the jury didn't believe that the United States government was duped by the Clinton campaign, because the United States government was working in unison with the Clinton campaign. So there you go. And see, the thing is, like, the way the left works is they're like, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, systemic injustices. None of that's going to be addressed unless you address this corruption. That's, like, the huge issue. Not Christian O'Brien. Long term, not short term. I'm going to get shirts that say long term, not short term. Hashtag Sussman trial. Hashtag Sussman acquittal is not that bad for the long term. Actually, for the short term, it's bad, but long term is okay. Exactly. No more from me. Exactly. Christian O'Brien, thank you. Dude, I tell you, dude. Thank you, Christian. I hope all is well. Christian O'Brien, thank you. Thank you. If you get kicked off, ladies and gentlemen, try to log back on. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I think people got kicked off. Sorry about that. Did anybody get kicked off? Let's do a poll. Let's do a poll. Did you just get here? Hashtag guilty. Christian O'Brien. Here's a poll for everybody. Long term. Christian, it's a poll. Long term or short term? So will is this going to be better long term and worse short term? So long term, it's better, right? There you go. All right, hold on. Let me just a couple polls just to couple polls for the road. Thank you, Christian. Thank you so much. To my super chat. I can't do this without you. I appreciate your support. Thank you. All right. So here, hold on one second. Will you be looking forward to Steele dossier trial? So the upcoming Steele dossier trial. Christian O'Brien! Long-term yo. Christian O'Brien, thank you. Thank you, Christian. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Long-term yo. Long-term. That's what I say. Long-term. Christian O'Brien, thank you so much. Thank you as always, Christian. As always, thank you. So 38%, Christian, 38% believe. Oh no, 38 votes, 82% will be looking forward to the next trial. 82%. It only matters if he changes his strategy. Danny, I agree with you. I agree with you, Danny. I agree with you. Christian, thank you again. Danny, I agree with you. 100% I agree with you. But if he changes his strategy, it's all good. See, Christian and everybody here, thank you, Adam. Thank you so very much, Adam. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you, Adam. Thank you. If you're playing baseball and you're expecting a fastball every time up to bat, you're going to strike out. You're going to strike out. And you have to look for that curveball. And Durham thinks that he's just going to the batting cage and waiting for just a fastball every 2 seconds. That's not what's going to happen. That is simply not what he needs to do. He needs to alter his strategy. He's technically 1-1. Durham is 1-1 because he got the conviction with Kleinsmith. So he's 1-1. He got the conviction with Kleinsmith. Christian. I've been duped again. Can you hear me? Papa, can you hear me? Hello? Getless, hello. Can you hear me, ladies and gentlemen? Am I back on? All right, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Bartlett! It's an old song. That was funny when you said I was duped again, yo. Oh, man. All right, so let's go ahead. All right. And we'll go 5 more minutes. I'm running out of steam. Joe, thank you, Joe. Thank you. John, that was the reference. Joe, thank you. That's right, Joe Pesci. Okay, so let me end this poll. Let's do another poll here. Okay, here, let's do this. You will love this. Okay? Trumpy. Okay. Are you ready? Let's go, people. Tell me. Give it to me. So Trump or DeSantis? I agree with half of your statement. Actually, I agree with all of your statement to an extent. Trump DeSantis would be awesome. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. All right, people. I need you here at 9 p.m. Pacific tonight. Paul Bartlett, everybody here, to my Australian crew, to my people in Australia and New Zealand and places that are up at the night my time. I need you here at 9 p.m. Pacific. Everybody here, East Coast time. It's going to be late, but Indy, hello. So, I'll see you all tonight at 9 p.m. I will have uploads. Suck it to me. Everybody, thank you. Christian, everybody, thank you so very much, everyone. And I'll see you tonight, everybody. I have uploads. Please check out the Stock Market Crash channel right now and the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel. God bless you all. Big day. I just wanted it to be over. And we'll talk more about why this is